Hello everyone, welcome to Tech Sharmit. In this session, we will discuss about few more medical related prefixes that we use in order to denote something information regarding body part. Okay, so mainly we are going to discuss about medical terminology prefixes. Prior to that, this session, like we have already discussed various topics, which is in the same sequence for the prefixes, right? So if you have not covered the previous sessions, I request you to go and check out the previous sessions first, because these all sessions are in a proper sequence, and this session is in the continuation of the same. So we are discussing in the part 24. Okay, so how we are going to proceed with this session? First of all, I'll tell you about the prefixes that we are going to discuss today, and I'll explain you the meaning. And once it is clear, then we will discuss also some examples. Okay, because examples are very important thing, because these are the only thing that will make clear your concepts, and at the time of interview or at the time of an exam you will be able to easily identify the actual meaning of medical terminology. So that's why we are discussing each and every prefix in a detail with their corresponding examples. Okay, so this is one thing. Now we are going to proceed with the session. So let's see what we have today. The first prefix is coron. Now what is coron? Coron. Whenever there is a discussion around hurt, then we will use the terminology prefix as coron. Now there might be one question, like in one of our previous session also we discussed one prefix which is used for hurt, right? So yeah, that's fine, because as I told you previously also, that there are multiple chances of alternative names as well. Like for one particular body part or for one particular term, there might be various alternative names as well. So we should know about each of them, right? Because it doesn't mean that if I'm referring hurt with coron that there is no other prefix. Yes, there might be other prefix like cardi is there, any other prefix. So this thing you will learn by the time. Okay, so again let's back to the topic, coron. So coron is a prefix which is used to denote information related to hurt. Now we will look at some examples. The first example is coronary arteriography. Coronary arteriography. Coronary arteriography means imaging of the coronary arteries using X-rays. Okay, so this is the definition. Coronary arteriography means imaging of the coronary arteries using X-rays. Okay, then we have next example, which is coronary atherosclerosis. Coronary atherosclerosis. Okay, so what is this? A built-up of plaque in the coronary arteries, maybe for some medical issues. Because of some medical issues, a plaque is built up in the coronary arteries, which leads to the leads to reduce the blood flow. So such type of condition is denoted with the help of terminology coronary atherosclerosis, which is initiated with the prefix coron. And somewhere we are talking about the heart, that's why we are using the prefix coron. Okay, we are talking about arteries, so it is somewhere related to heart, right? Heart arteries. Now look at the next example. Next example is coronary angioplasty. Coronary angioplasty. Now what is angioplasty? This thing we have already discussed, right? Angioplasty. Angio means something related to the blood vessel, right? Now we are talking about coronary angioplasty, a procedure to widen narrowed or obstructed coronary arteries. So just assume a scenario, a patient is suffering from some kind of blockage, and just to remove that blockage, what the doctors use, they use a procedure, they perform a procedure to widen the narrowed or obstructed coronary arteries using a balloon. Okay, so this procedure is known as coronary angioplasty, which is initiated by the prefix coron, which is indicating the information hurt. Then we have coronary sinus. Now what is coronary sinus? A vein that collects or deoxygenated blood from the heart muscle. So again we are talking something related to heart muscle. That's why we are using the term coron as a prefix. So complete terminology is coronary sinus, which is a vein that collects deoxygenated blood from the heart muscle. Now, if you look at all the examples again, you will find only one common thing, which is heart. In every example, we are talking about heart, and that's why we are using the prefix coron. Okay, so yeah, this is all about the first prefix. Now we will look at the second prefix. Second prefix is cost. Cost means something related to ribs. Okay, for example, costectomy. Now, what is costectomy? Costectomy means surgical removal of a rib. Let's say a patient is suffering from some kind of disease, and due to some maybe some for the medical procedure, it is required to remove the rib, ribs. So in that case, we will perform the doctors will perform the costectomy. Costectomy. Okay. Then we have costy cartilage. Now, what is costy cartilage? Cartilage associated with the ribs. Whenever a cartilage is associated with the ribs, then we will term it as costy cartilage, which is initiated with the prefix cost. Costy cartilage. Then we have costiform. Now, what is costiform? Reassembling of a rib. For some medical reasons, if we are reassembling a rib, then we will term it as a costiform. Costiform is initiated with the prefix cost, which is again denoting the ribs. Then we have costophrenic. Costophrenic. Now, what is costophrenic? Pertaining to the ribs and diaphragm. So, when we are discussing about the ribs and diaphragm, pertaining to the ribs and diaphragm, then we will use the terminology costophrenic, which is initiated with the prefix cost. Okay. So yeah, these are the all examples for cost prefix. And one thing which is common here is ribs. You can see in every example we are talking about ribs only. So yeah, this is the one thing. Now we will look to the next prefix, which is Crani or Crani or cranio. Crani or cranio, which is used to denote something as skull. So whenever there is a discussion related to skull, then we will use the terminology crani or cranio. Now look at the examples. First one is craniotomy. Now what is craniotomy? Surgical procedure involving the incision of the skull to access the brain. Again, for some kind of disease or for the treatment of some disease, if a surgical procedure is involved for the incision of a skull to access the brain, then this thing we will denote with the help of terminology craniotomy, which is initiated with the prefix cranio. Likewise, in the second example, we are talking about the cranial. Now, what is cranial? It is related to the skull or cranium. Skull or cranium. So again, something is moving around the skull. That's why we are using the prefix crani. Then we have craniectomy. Now, what is craniectomy? It's a surgical removal of a portion of the skull to relieve the pressure on the brain. As I previously told you, that whenever there is a discussion, we are using the suffix ectomy. That means something is removed or something we are removing. So this thing we will denote with the help of terminology craniectomy, which is initiated with the prefix crani. Likewise, if you look at the cranial nerves, then 12 pairs of nerves that arises directly from the brain and are involved in the various sensory and motor function is known as cranial nerves. Now, if you walk through all the examples again, you will find only one common thing, which is a skull. Somewhere we are talking about the incision of skull, somewhere we are talking related to skull, surgical removal of skull, as well as some nerves which is initiated from the skull or which is related to the skull, right? So these all things are denoted with the prefix crani or cranium. Okay, so far we have discussed three prefixes. First one is coron, which is related to heart. Then we discussed cost, which is related to rib. And at last we discussed about the crani or cranio, which is related to skull. So yeah, these are the all topic which I would like to share with you all in this session. And for today, there is only one question for you, like what information is provided by the prefix kefal and keflo or country. Okay. I think you know about this answer. If there is any issue with it, you can refer the previous session because there we have already discussed it in detail. But if you know the answer, then I request you to share your knowledge in the comment section so that others can take a reference from it. So yeah, that's all for today. In the next session, we will discuss few more things. So thank you for watching Tech Sharmit.